This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Two players that you built your roster around aren't here.
Eric Musselman last night. I know Bob Holt was watching, and he was there, and he was asking questions. Bob, coach says that they're offensively challenged, and I think you just watch the games right now. You can tell. So how is Arkansas going to win basketball games for the foreseeable future?
Well, they've got to. I think they've got to get back to forcing more turnovers that creates offense. You know, earlier in the season, when they were, got off to such a good start, they were really dominating the points off turnovers. And I know they're playing less talented teams. Obviously, they've stepped up in class against these SEC teams, and they've had a pretty, tough start here in terms of who they're playing. They're playing some pretty tough teams. Alabama's obviously really good, but they got beat last night, I think 24-7 on points off turnovers, and at Auburn it was, I think, 25-6. So that isn't even close. That's basically what Arkansas was doing to other teams. And so they've got to get more live ball turnovers they can convert into points, because they've obviously struggled against said defenses. They don't shoot the three very well. I think they can shoot it better than they have. I mean, they were 2-16. And
you can't shoot it any worse.
Yeah, well, they can all go over whatever.
Man.
Yeah, but, and nothing is free throws. I mean, on the season, they've been a pretty decent free throw shooting team. I think a little over 70%. They might have fallen below that, but when you get to the line, you got to convert at a higher rate than they have. They've been shooting around 60%. I mean, Anthony Black was 1 for 5, which was kind of a shock to me from the line. But I think they got to get more steals, from their backcourt that can start fast breaks. They've got to hit their free throws better. I think they can. I don't think they'll keep shooting threes this badly. Maybe they will. Or maybe it'll get worse. Maybe they'll do some offers. But I think those are two areas they can definitely get better in. And because you hit more of those free throws, and it puts more pressure on the other teams. Well, Eric talked about that at Auburn. That it was hard to keep pressure on Auburn because they weren't converting their free throws at a very high rate.
Yeah, and that's I mean, I know we talk about it, but Anthony Black, they're going to take him away. He never seemed like he really felt comfortable yesterday, because he is our guy. He's the guy that they're going to try to take away, and that's where it helps when you have a guy like Nick Smith, and then maybe a guy like Graham. If he can come in and give us some points, maybe defenses have to start focusing on him a little bit, and then that can open up a little bit more for Anthony Black and Ricky Council.
Yeah, that was definitely the most assertive I've seen Jalen Graham be, and he's been kind of hit and miss this year with his minutes played. If you look at his points per minute, it's really good, and he's got a high shooting percentage. Of course, most of his points are coming in the lane, but basically all of his points are right around the basket. But he was really assertive last night. He hit 8 out of 10, and I think he had 5 boards. That's been so they wanted to see him do more rebounds. So I got to believe, I think that's another thing maybe that they at least need to try, is to give Jalen Graham more minutes, because when he goes in there and gets minutes, usually he's been making things happen offensively. Now, there's a couple games early in the year he didn't play. I think they felt like he needed to raise his intensity level in practice, and maybe they feel like he can be a defensive liability at times.
But I love him 10 feet from the basket, Bob. Like his moves and the way he handles himself around the rim, man. I think he might be our best inside presence.
Yeah, and like I say, he was very assertive, and when he was finishing, he had a really good dunk. He has they call him spin cycle. At least that's what Kamani Johnson said earlier in the season, because he's got these good spin moves, and then when they collapsed on him, he had a really nice assist for a dunk to one of the Mitchell twins. I forget which. But so he looked very aggressive and very assertive. Now, he scored 16 against North Carolina Greensboro, or Asheville, I guess it was. It was Asheville, but that's a lot different scoring at 16 against Alabama's bigs versus UNC Asheville. So I thought that was a performance that definitely should earn him more minutes. I think he had 16, only 19 minutes. I'd have to add it up, but his minutes his points per minute is really high, and I think, you have to feel like, hey, let's give that guy some more minutes, and maybe they have to do more with the way the three ball has not been dropped, and they need to do more, more inside out. I mean, they started a bigger lineup last night. They started Mikael Mitchell along with Makai, his twin brother. I thought they might start Kamani Johnson in the same place as Devo to go bigger, but instead they started Mikael and had Ricky Council come off the bench. And Devo Davis, he's 6'4", did a really solid
great
job
game. His best conference game of the year so far.
Yeah, on Brandon Miller. I know Miller got off in the second half. The crazy thing was not only did he not Miller, comes in averaging over 19 points, leading the league. 43% 3-point shooter, gets to the line a lot, 80-some%. He didn't even attempt a shot or a free throw in the first half, which just shocked me. If I were Nate Oates, I would have, during a timeout, I would have told guys, I don't care what you got to do, you get this guy a freaking shot,
And that also shows a little bit, Bob, of like how good Alabama might be. That their top scorer, barely even showed up in the first half, and they were still tied in the toughest place to win in the SEC in Bud Walton Arena, and then he goes off in the second half. I mean, how much can we put last night's game to Alabama being as good as advertised?
Well, I think you have to give Alabama a lot of credit, and I wrote about this, but they have some really high-level wins away from home. They're 4-0 on the road now. That includes a win at Houston when Houston was number one, and Houston's back at number one. Houston led that game on their home court by 15, and Alabama came back and beat them. I think it was 71-65. They beat North Carolina and Michigan State up in Portland. They won at Mississippi State to open the SEC play by double digits. I mean, they are really, really good. They've added some great pieces with, Brandon Miller, who we talked about, and Noah Clowney, a big freshman, and their point guard, who had 26 last night, the transfer from Ohio. He's really good. Javon Quinterly, who was the MVP of the SEC tournament a couple of years ago, he's coming off the bench for him, And they had some. Arkansas did a good job getting him in foul trouble, but Alabama's got some pretty good depth coming off that bench. They got a lot of size, and Arkansas cut it to 2 on that Jalen Graham basket, and the place is going crazy. And you feel like the Arkansas, man, we got them right where we want them. They cut a 12-point deficit to 2, and those freshmen come out, and Clowney gets free in the corner, drains the 3, 6'10" kid, and then Miller hits back-to-back threes, and Arkansas obviously helped.
Well, I mean, and so at some point you're waiting for somebody to come off the bench
and drop threes. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, to me, Brandon Miller reminds me a lot of Jabari Smith. Last year for Auburn, a big that's really smooth and handles the ball well, and just got great length. But yeah, Alabama's really, really good. They Alabama and Tennessee right now have to be the top teams in the SEC. Alabama to me looks like a Final Four contender with what they can do. Obviously, it's a long season, but. I think you got to remember Alabama can come in and blow Arkansas. I mean, it's a 15-point final, but it's a 2-point game with less than 5 minutes playing. And then Alabama just went on a big run, and Arkansas couldn't answer. But I don't think you have to be ashamed of losing to Alabama, even at home. That's a game we thought Arkansas could get. I honestly don't know what the line was, but Alabama is playing really, really well, and they're playing really well away from home. So. Just because Arkansas couldn't beat Alabama doesn't mean they can't still go on and have a good season. I don't think,
Well, first thing, they got to get a little confidence back, Got to get a little confidence back. And playing Vanderbilt on Saturday. And I hate the idea. Muss is talking about must-win game against Mizzou. I don't know if he said anything like that about Alabama. I doubt you can because it's not realistic to look at that as the number 4 team in the country and it's a must-win game. Vanderbilt, I know it's on the road, but... And then Ole Miss, these next 2 are pretty close to feeling like must-win games.
Well, actually, they play at Missouri. They play at Vanderbilt and at Missouri. So, and Missouri, obviously, they got beat at A&M the other night pretty decisively. But Missouri's had a real good season. They gave Arkansas all they wanted up here, or down here, I guess, from Columbia. But, it's a tough start to the SEC. I mean, all these SEC games are tough. You look at South Carolina. I know Kentucky's struggling, but who would have ever thought in their right mind that South Carolina would go into Lexington and beat Kentucky. And so it really is one of those, anybody can beat anybody kind of things. And, Arkansas, one thing, when Eric said must wins a couple times, like when they opened up with a win at Auburn a couple of years ago, he says it was after victories. I don't think he's going to say that after a loss. Like, well, we had to win that game and we did. I don't think any coach is going to say that, and he's probably not going to, say that before, at least not to the media. Maybe he'll say that to the players. But again, you maybe don't want to put too much pressure on your players too. But yeah, Vanderbilt's they have the odd configuration with the benches on the baseline and the elevated floor, and it's built like an opera house or whatever. It's a weird place to play. It's unique, and most of Arkansas's players have not played there, obviously, with all the newcomers, and so that won't be easy. Vanderbilt was leading at Tennessee by 2 the other night, and then Tennessee, kind of blew them out in the second half. That won't be an easy game. I don't think any road game is going to be easy for Arkansas this year, with all the young guys they have, or but even the newcomers aren't used to this SEC schedule. But they need to win at least one of these next two on the road, and obviously it'd be great for them if they could win 2. But it's a tough start to this SEC play because 4 of the first 6 are on the road, and then your home games are Alabama, who's really, really good, in Missouri, who's much better than expected. So at the end of the day, you get 9 games at home and 9 on the road, but it's a rough start for Arkansas on paper with, like, say, 4 of the first 6 on the road.
Well, and Arkansas was a team on the rise, back-to-back Elite Eights, and I know it's a new squad, but, man, they got a target on their back. Every game, when you go to back-to-back Elite Eights, man, everybody's bringing their A-game against you, so we got to bring our A-game every time.
Yeah, and Arkansas is the only SEC team that got past the Sweet 16 the last 2 years. Alabama won the league.
Everybody knows that, yeah.
Yeah, and Eric, let's face it, Eric's out there. I think he does a great job marketing his program.
Mm-hmm.
He's certainly not shy, and I'm not saying he should be, but I think there's probably a lot of jealousy, with the attention Arkansas gets, and Eric's always out there on social media, which, I say personally, I think that's a great thing, but it could rub other people the wrong way. I don't know. But, people should appreciate the fact that other teams want to beat you that bad because it means you're good. I remember, John McDowell, the great track and field cross-country coach at Arkansas, he always said he didn't want the other coaches to like him, because that meant he wasn't beating them. So Arkansas's won a lot of games since Eric got here, and I still think they could. I was just looking at the schedule. I still think there's 10 or 11 SEC wins out there for Arkansas. I'm not saying they're going to get there, and obviously, if Nick Smith can come back, that would help. I don't know if he will or not. I certainly don't think they can count on that with his knee situation, but. Arkansas still. Who in the SEC during college basketball would not want Anthony Black? Who would not want Ricky Council? Who would not want, Jordan Walsh? And by the way, speaking of him, he's a talented kid who needs to get going. He had, a good game against Oklahoma and a good win. He had a good game over a pretty solid Bradley team, but he's kind of quieted down offensively, and so I think they need more from him. You guys talk about what can they do offensively. Get Jordan Walsh going would help a lot because he's a McDonald's All-American, and they need more from him.
Bob, I saw you're right about Isaiah Sategna redshirting during the track season. So it means he'll be able to go through practices both with football and with track without having to worry about trying to compete with track. What do you think this does for Sategna for his future in both sports?
Well, I think it's a good thing because, he didn't go through spring football last year. So many of these kids are coming in now and doing, early enrolling and going through spring ball, leaving high school early.
They still call it gray shirt?
I don't know if they call it that or not.
Yeah, that's what they used to call it. Yeah, gray shirt when you'd show up a semester early.
Yeah, I remember when I first started doing this, guys, nobody was up here in the summer. I mean, the players were, but none of the newcomers were. And the first day they were getting fitted for helmets and pads and all this kind of stuff. It's totally changed. Now you've got 15, 16 newcomers or more coming in. Certainly with the transfer portal, you probably have 20 guys or something in here plus. But but Isaiah, because he's such a great, he wanted to compete in track, understandably. Well, he can't compete in high school track and enroll in college, so he stayed at Fayetteville, which I think is great for guys to do that. I think I get the motivation for coming in early, and I think players probably feeling more and more pressure to do that to keep up. But this will be his first spring football, and he was hurt during part of the year, so he obviously missed practice time. Only got to play in 4 games, so I think it makes sense he's still going to be a two-sport guy, but he is on football scholarship. And so this is a chance for him to get some good, a lot of good work in the spring, in spring football, but also do track. And after football season, because, he played in the bowl game and stuff. I don't think you come back from Memphis and the next day you're out of track practice. I don't think that's good physically or mentally for a guy. So if I understood Chris Buckham, the track and field coach, correctly, he's going to start doing some track practices on Monday. And I'm honestly not sure what the first day of spring ball is going to be. I'm not sure if they've announced that. Maybe they have, but that's usually, in March and April. And so he can do that and mix in some track and then not have to have, the pressure of competing in track. Because, if he's just starting track practice, and they've got their first meet tomorrow, by the way, in Fayetteville, if anybody wants to go see some track, there's a track meet in Fayetteville tomorrow. I think it starts about 2 and goes till about 8. And but Arkansas really loaded up in the transfer portal. They've got a lot of good athletes. And so, as Chris said, Isaiah's going to be a lot better as a fifth-year guy than he is right now. So I think it's good for him, probably mentally and physically. He needs to, and he needs to go through spring football because he's never done that before. And especially, I say, coming off an ankle injury that cost him a lot of practice time. And then, he doesn't have to feel the pressure of competing in track because I just don't think he'd be there right now. But he's an elite athlete, so he can definitely help him big time in both sports.
Line remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.